Heroes Season 4. Yeah, I get why it was cancelled now, because, okay, the thing is, if you take this season on its own, I think it actually will have fewer problems than Season 3, but following the broad continuing storyline that they were trying to keep going after the end of season 3, it's just bad at this point because Sylar at the beginning, okay, we're following like 3 different Sylars, okay? Because first we have the Sylar that's trapped in Nathan's mind, then we have the Sylar that is trapped in Nathan's body, and then there's like a third version that somehow gets mingled into this, so mingled that I can't even really explain it. It just, that wasn't good. Towards the end of the season, it gets better, but once you get to the end of it, it's like, again, make up your minds. Are we supposed to be liking the character, or are we still supposed to believe that he's the bad guy? Now, as I said before, okay, there were moments in all of the previous seasons where we feel sorry for Sylar, but now it's like, where are you going with this, okay? Because this show is supposed to be built upon the idea that Sylar is the omnipresent bad guy throughout the whole story, even though there's usually immediate bad guys that take the attention off of him. Claire's father, Adam Monroe, Peter's father, all that stuff, but now, once you get to the end of the season, it's like he's this close to becoming a good guy? That just, I don't know. Like, where would the show have gone with this at this point? Like, that's a tricky thing for me to really get past. Then, some of the other characters, okay? Ali Larter's character, it felt like they didn't really do that much with her, even though according to Google AI, when I tried to look up how many episodes that she wasn't in this season, she's actually barely missing from any of them, which is weird because I know for a fact that I read someplace that she missed out on a bunch of episodes to go film Resident Evil Afterlife. But yeah, they weren't even doing that much with her, and I really felt like that they missed out on a big opportunity with the character, because at the beginning of the season, when Noah is busy trying to handle the Jeremy or Joshua character who killed his parents, but then ends up getting himself killed because he just can't handle what he's going through, they were doing something there where Tracy and Noah they were relying on each other in a way that they hadn't done before. Well, if they had played the cards right, they actually could have used Tracy as Noah's love interest for this season instead of the Lauren trick. And here's the thing. Even though I felt like her introduction was entirely unnecessary, and is also another example of the show adding more to the backstory that actually hurts the narrative of the first season, I didn't really have a big problem with the Lauren chick once she was integrated to the storyline. What she was doing was fine. But in my mind, it would have actually made more sense if they had Ali Larter be Noah's love interest in this season. Huh? Wonder what your thoughts are about that. So that was that issue. Then Hero's character. Now, I don't deny that the eventual payout for him was relatively decent, but the problem was that whole storyline felt like it was there just so the character could be integrated into the show again. but his storyline is largely independent from all of the other characters, which is true of previous seasons, but in season 1, he interacts with other characters as his future self, and you know that he's going to meet up with them at the end. And then in season 2, it went on longer than it was supposed to, but they couldn't just have him resolve that time travel thing and then get right back. No. He had to work for it, okay? And then his storyline at the beginning of season 3, again independent, but then it ties into the other people. I don't entirely remember how, but it did. This season, he's entirely on his own, okay? And even when he gets his little side quest completed by jumping into the past and then rescuing Mohinder, it was all independent. And even when they rescue Mohinder, it was just, okay, yeah, he's in the season, here you go, and now we're just going to ignore him again. Nah. Come on. And again, the payout with him getting over his guilt about not being able to save Charlie, okay, that was a nice payout, but I don't know, people, I really don't know. Again, it felt more like they were just doing that just so he could be included in this season. At least with Nathan, with him being dependent on other people, again, like with season 3, the payout was better. Yes, they were getting rid of him, but there wasn't much more that they could have done with the character. He would have either had to have been a supporting character who helps them from time to time, like Ando and arguably Matt, but they did a much better job of giving Matt his own storylines and having it feel vital. Because bringing his wife back into the picture and then continuing that dynamic, showing that he's got a bunch of problems, but still has some, not the most entirely rational anger towards Sylar. It's not that unreasonable that he might go into this, because him or Peter falling into that bit, I think that it makes sense for one of them to do it, and then having it be Matt, because Peter is supposed to be the plot device that helps make a lot of things possible, and even though he can only emulate 1 or 2 powers now, because there were times that it felt like he had more than one going on, but just one extra, it helps restrict the character and do things. But yeah, getting rid of Nathan at the end, I think that was appropriate. Claire's bit, well, her character has always been much more independent than the other characters because of the age bit. And if I get anyone going, woke agenda being put in there, actually, based on what research that I've looked into, they were always going to do a romance bit, but it was Hayden herself that convinced the writers to have it be a female love interest, because even though she didn't admit this at the time, she's actually bisexual. Even though there were some times that people were throwing that around for 1 or 2 roles of hers, though I don't think it was this role. It was either Scream or Ice Princess, yeah. Anyway. Right, but I've never really had a problem with Claire's bit, as she's trying to be the ordinary person who keeps getting thrust into a supernatural bit, but now that she is an actual adult, by the end of the season, she decides to embrace that and move on with it the other way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that everything this season was bad. It was nice to see Ali Lauder and Hayden have a couple scenes together on screen. It wasn't the greatest, but that it showed that they actually know about each other, are comfortable with each other. It was just nice to see the females finally get something to do there, and even more reason why I think Ali Lauder would have been a better love interest for Noah than the Lauren chick, even though, again, there's nothing bad about the Lauren chick. And then the villain of the season, yes, this villain feels out of touch with the villains of the previous season, but on its own, it's fine. There's a part of me that actually liked that complexity, the group dynamic, the added layer of implied racism in there, for lack of a better term. On its own, it was great in my mind. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. But at least I can look at it through that lens, you know. And then how the season ended, I'm a bit torn on that because I don't really see how they could have really continued the show, to be honest. They would have been able to think of something for Hero using his powers like crazy, then bringing in Peter and then Matt to help Noah out because, let's be honest, since they've been phasing back Mohinder over the seasons, it's largely speaking been the Noah, Matt, and Peter / Nathan show with Claire, Ali Lauder, and Hero getting their own independent plots being done in there. Not that I mind Noah being central focus, because I actually do enjoy the character. Yes, he's a flawed character, but that's the point. He's supposed to be a character that has problems, and yet you get it, even though you don't entirely agree with him. Although the added backstory that they just shoved into the penultimate episode, I think I could have done without that, to be honest. If you had just done one of those things, I think it would have been okay, but both of that, yeah, just why not just bury them right off the bat, you know? Right. And then Peter dealing with the is it Ellen or Hannah chick? That was actually pretty nice there, especially since she wasn't strictly a damsel in distress, and how she provided a little added dynamic to it. With all these supporting characters, it did get a little muddled, but on its own, again, it was a nice idea, this storyline. Yeah. Right. And then let's address the true cliffhanger ending. So people had hyped this show as being one of the shows that is canceled on a cliffhanger, but some other people have said that, like with Caprica, this show actually gets a fast forward right at the end, and that virtually all plot lines are taken care of. Well, yes, in Caprica, all but 2 things are taken care of, one of which is very trivial, like who cleans up the stadium. Yeah, so that part is trivial, so really it's just one character that we didn't have the firmest resolution for in Caprica, but that character, the last time we saw said character, they were in an okay place. Right. So it was just the fast forward that gives you a tease of what Season 2 would have been about, and then we never got Season 2. This fast forward is just a continuation from the last couple minutes of what is the real end of the episode, and just shows all the characters coming together in one central location. It's only Claire's bit that has a cliffhanger, and even then it's just her choosing to put herself out there as one of the heroes that is being exposed to the world now. Cancelled on a cliffhanger, just barely. It's a hook for what would have been Season 5, but we never got it. It's just like saying that every season of Supernatural ends on a cliffhanger. No. There are seasons that don't end on a cliffhanger, okay? Season 3, I wouldn't call that a cliffhanger, I'd call that a hook, okay? You can argue that for Season 5, though it's a little trickier to do so, I think, in that situation. But, Alright? But yeah, that being the end, what more could you really have done? You would have had to get really creative with coming up with a new plot for Noah, which wouldn't have been hard to do. Hero, which would have been hard to do. You could have gone all kinds of directions with Claire. Madge, you would have figured out a natural continuation. And then Peter is Peter. You can use him in any way possible. As long as Milo, the actor, would have gotten behind it, you'd be set. Yeah. So on its own, it's not awful, but if you're looking at where the show has been going since season 1, the season pales in comparison to season 1, and then the ongoing storyline was getting way harder to sustain, because originally this was supposed to be an anthology show, and then they decided to not do that because of how popular season 1 cast was, which eventually grew to hurt them, but more so in this season than I think season 3. Yeah. And while it's on my mind, what the hell is up with this home video release? Because first of all, this case is much shorter than the other ones. I don't care about thickness, but also this comes out of the wrong side, and you look at the innards. Look closely here. There are no spindles anywhere. They had to include this freaking manual here to teach you how to get the discs out. Like, what the hell up with that? No, thank you. I've got a seller sending me the Spanish version of this season, which is just in a key case like this, and that's what I'm going to use these for. Heck, I had to throw away my disc 4 because of how messed up it was. What the hell? Which is what many people are definitely saying about what this show has become now, even though, again, on its own, this season has a lot of merit. Okay, well, that takes care of the main show of Heroes, but I'm not done yet. Oh, no. Now I gotta look at the spin-off products and then check out Reborn. See you then.